These great steel plates were measured, cut and fixed into the structure of the ship across the split. The idea being that when she floats and the gap closes, they can tighten up the bolts and hold her together so that the gap can never open up again. And so it started at last. While everyone was praying that the water was coming out quicker than it was going in, they moved the mulus to a spot some distance away where the bottom was exactly the right depth, and here they began the most enormous disappearing trick. Using the chart made by the crew of Endurance, they found one place where the bottom was level and the water was exactly the right depth. The important thing was to make sure that the mulus was placed exactly over this one possible spot. Finally, they opened the air vents in the great buoyancy tanks, and like a vast submarine submerging, the mulus, complete with its gear, its winches and everything else, slid below the surface and settled gently and firmly on the bottom. With its tall metal poles sticking out of the water, the spot was marked exactly for the Great Britain to float over the top of the mulus. The question still was, would the Great Britain float tomorrow? The tug lay off in deeper water for the night, and they waited. It should have happened the next day. Quite suddenly, when no one was expecting it, and with hardly a wire made fast to hold her, she was up. The Great Britain was afloat again. They found wires just in time, and they made her safe before she floated away. With a small tug alongside her, they were ready for the last stage, in some ways the most difficult of all. To get this great, rusty, leaking monster exactly in the right place on top of the mulus, taking into account that she may be floating now, but nobody knows how much damage she may have underneath, and nobody knows how strong she is. She could simply sink where she is at any moment. They flew the ensign of the Falkland Islands from her stern, and very slowly they nudged her, a foot at a time this way, and an inch at a time that way. It's no easy task to move a big ship like the Great Britain in the open sea onto a spot so exact that a matter of inches makes the difference between success and failure. Finally, they were satisfied. She was over the top, and the next stage could begin. Horst Cowlin, the salvage engineer, explains how they did it.
The pontoon was now full up with water and stay flat on the ground. And the Great Britain was refloating and come now inside between the dolphins on the right position on the pontoon. And now we start with air pump inside in the bow from the pontoon. And after 3 hours, maybe, come the pontoon up with the Great Britain. After 12 or 15 hours more, the airs come over the middle from the pontoon, and that was a difficult point when the pontoon start and will come free from the bottom. And we watch it with divers what side come first, and so it was on one side more, and so we bring more air in this side, and the pontoon come back and come just free from the bottom now. So it was easy to bring up him with the Great Britain together. And after 24 hours, the pontoon was free out the water, and now we have to bring all water out, check all tanks, new around the pontoon, and now he's swimming safety with no less.
She was actually standing there, high and dry, out of the water, and yet afloat. On the 14th of April, the Great Britain left Sparrow Cove. She sailed out and round the corner and back into Port Stanley. A dramatic sight for the islanders, and particularly for the men who took her the other way as a hulk back in 1937. There were some who said that it couldn't be done, and some who were sure that it shouldn't be done. There were very few indeed who thought that it would ever actually happen, but it did. The Great Britain was back in harbour, temporarily. They welded her down onto the pontoon. They attached wires and hauled them tight. They put in wedges and props. They fastened down so securely that she became part of the pontoon itself. Nothing was going to move her now that they had her aboard. It's a long way from the Falkland Islands to Bristol, about 9,000 miles in fact. A very long way to come home. But at least she was underway. Whatever happened, she wasn't going to end her days as a heap of rusty metal on a beach in the Falkland Islands. It isn't easy to keep control over a flat pontoon when you're towing it across the Atlantic on the end of a wire rope. At one stage, the tow became so difficult that they only covered 30 miles in 24 hours.